At the end of the day, everything is a risk, right? They talk so much about, running a business online, running a business period, how risky that can be, right? You think about in person, you think about online, just either way, it's a risk, a lot of people are going to tell you. And I would highlight that without a doubt, it's the same thing for a 9 to 5. How many people are getting laid off, especially these days due to AI? Shoot, is lay off, fired, anything in between here. I think that to say that just starting a business is risky is not looking at the bigger picture, right? There's a risk either way. And I will even say too, it's like I would say, hey, even if I'm going to defend the side of starting a business, I think at the end of the day, you starting a business with an offer, within a niche, within something that really doesn't have any backbone to it, that's also not ideal for you, for being honest here. So I think it really comes back towards understanding the key strategy to win long term. And that's what I really want to talk about today, because I just feel like when it all comes down to it, you going ahead and living your life, you're taking a risk anyways. So I really want to go ahead and just kind of explain how I work and navigate around that, right? I own 2 businesses on my side here. I help a lot of other coaches with their businesses, and I consult in other ways as well too. I really just want to make sure that you can have a strong understanding to help your business. I know you're a coach watching this, right? I'm making these videos every Wednesday for coaches, live and direct. So I want to make sure that we can leave you here today with something really good to just give you clarity, so that no matter what path you're taking, we can go ahead and get you off and running, all right? So out the gates, really the biggest piece that jumps out to me is just this idea around risk and people seeing it the wrong way. I just went to a meeting out here at the Chamber of Commerce where there was a ton of local business owners, right? They all were there, a lot of brick and mortar type business owners, not as much of the online side. I typically go to more so of the online style mastermind. So I'm very familiar with those spaces. And this was kind of a first time I've kind of gotten to something bigger like this with these local type of businesses, right? And honestly, it was really good. I liked the experience. I wasn't really going to learn a lot. I was going just to kind of see in the experience. And, I've been invited to a lot of these. I've spoken to some stuff locally, but not to this magnitude. There's probably about 300 to 500 small business owners, if you will, in the building. And so with that being said, one of the common themes for one is people were very surprised that I'm doing things online. Once again, a lot of these people are very used to shaking hands, getting dirty in person, and they're seeing that, hey, like this guy over here, like I tell them, hey, I help people sell information online. I'm telling them about how I'm helping coaches primarily. I do some services. I have some agency side of it, but really it's just a lot of coaching, consulting, and it's not the consulting that's throwing them off. It's the fact that where am I getting my clients? And that's where really the question started to come out. I was like, all right, well, I'm telling them, hey, I've been full-time with this for 6 years, X, Y, Z. And they're saying like, yeah, how are you getting your clients? And so I'm telling them, hey, I was big in organic when I first got started, but really meta ads has been, the biggest thing for me by far now. And so when I would say that, I could always see it in their face a little bit. And this was not for the majority, because a lot of them I wasn't getting to that point, because they're just like, what is it you do? But for the portions that really were very much in the know or just very intrigued, which there's probably about like 5 people that I talked to where they just really kind of got it, right? They're understanding like that there's really something happening. They know, if you know, you know. And so they were the ones kind of asking, well, okay, well, what is it that you do to get traffic? And I'm telling them, well, I'm using meta ads. And so they're saying, like, oh, wow. Like I'm just reading the face. It's like, for one, they're just surprised that it works. I can tell by saying, oh, wow, in that sense. And, then maybe the conversation continued. But what I want to circle back on is, they said, I guess they said, well, we'll put the cherry on it just to finish that point, right? So they asked me if it works, and I said, yeah, I'm making my cash back. I'm like, hey, right now in this month, I'm 6x ROAS, right? 6 ROAS there. For every dollar I'm spending, I'm getting $6 back. So they're hearing this, and like I said, I can tell that to a certain extent they're shocked. They're surprised. They can't believe that they can't believe this is happening. And so this is just self-reflection I'm having while I'm sitting there talking to them. I'm thinking they're clearly surprised, because I'll tell you what, I've talked to a lot of small business owners really more in a one-off scenario, right? I don't talk to them as much in large groups like that. But, that's why I wanted to kind of see what that was like. But I've talked to a lot of them, and a lot of them really, for one, they don't want to spend money they don't want to spend too much money on things like that, because I think at the end of the day, a lot of them feel like they've been, I'm going to say burned, but I'll tell you what, I think this is all going to tie back to the risk. I think that they just did not have the right strategy. Let me go ahead and turn back around over here. I just feel like they did not have the right strategy at the end of the day. And so that's why they're going ahead and they're hearing this guy over here. Seems like, maybe they're thinking young in comparison to the crowd. Young guy seems like he knows what he's doing. He's making money with this. He's using meta ads to get leads. How is he doing this so consistently? Because I'm paraphrasing what I'm imagining what they're thinking. Everyone that I know has tried meta ads and it hasn't worked. I've tried meta ads, hasn't worked, right? People talking to me, promising the moon. And so obviously, and here's the thing, I'm not even really trying to work with these people as much because I know that's their mentality. But I will say, I know that realistically what happened for a lot of them is that they just didn't have a good strategy getting into it. So now when they look at it and they're thinking, I don't know if it's even worth, like, wow, this guy is clearly has something working on the meta side. They're still thinking the risk end. They're like, yeah, it works for him, but I highly doubt that it'll work for me. And it's because of past trauma, I was going to say, as a dramatic way of putting it here. So I think what we really just need to start to understand is when it comes down to risk, everything is risky. What you need to do, real estate's risky, right? But the reality is you just have to go about it in the smartest way possible. Go about it in a way that's going to give you the least chance of failure. And I think that's where, if we're being honest, it's like partnering up with somebody to help you out. I didn't get here by accident. At the same time, you have to get the right skill sets. That's why skill sets are so important, understanding that as well too. The skill set of me being good at meta ads, this is the thing. I just see that the business owners who are more in person and don't want to get into something like that, what are they doing? They're relying on word of mouth. They're relying on referrals. They're relying on organic traffic stumbling upon their stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're really looking to scale in the way that all of these businesses are looking to scale, just like online businesses are, you have to be able to find a way to get more consistent lead flow. And that's exactly where I was really wanting to I was glad I was enlightening them, because I can see a light bulb going off, right? They're like, all right, if this guy can figure it out, maybe I need to go back and reassess. And so that's the thing I really want to hit home here for today is, like, don't go ahead and just not get into something because it's risky. I think, and also don't get into it just because I'm telling you to right now, because you know what that thing is. I'm not even saying it's going to be meta ads for you. I'm not even saying, but whatever it may be. Right? I know a lot of coaches that I'm talking to who aren't working with me, and especially the ones that just sign with me, they're looking to really optimize their lead generation. And really more specifically, they're not getting qualified leads, qualified prospects, which is the same thing that I was just seeing with these offline business owners. And so a way that you can really start to get around that is understanding what is your biggest bottleneck. And if you can find something that can fix that bottleneck, then really you should be going ahead and spending as much time as possible understanding how you can win with the solution that gets you around it. Because once you uncover that, everything else starts to change. Once you uncover that, now you can really start to elevate the business in ways that you never could. My first $300,000 that I made was fully organic, right? So that was all, and I was really just using Facebook, I wasn't even using Instagram yet at that point, but fully organic. But the reality that I saw was that I was so strapped for time. I had to really be all in the hustle mentality. And in my eyes, I also saw that as a drastic risk, of the sense of, when you're doing organic, I was more like cold outreach organic. Yeah, I was doing content, but the cold outreach was my main thing. And I was reaching limitations. These Meta, Facebook, Instagram, they don't want you sending messages that often. So so I needed a way that could be more consistent. And I think it's the same thing too that I was seeing with these offline business owners, these brick and mortar business owners. They have it where they're relying on these word of mouth. They're relying on these referrals. But it's tough to scale that way. It's tough to have consistent lead flow that way. But especially a lot of them are service providers. There was even financial services, right? There's a lot of people who are helping people in a somewhat consultant fashion. And I think that's the biggest thing, is just realizing that it's not that it doesn't work. It's that you just haven't found a way to crack it. So like I said, I think that for you, there's a large chance for you it is the lead generation side. And honestly, you should double down and try to figure that piece out. For you, maybe it's something else, right? Maybe it's the sales process. I have another client I just signed on last week where for him it's really cracking the average order value within his actual client funnel, right? His low ticket funnel that he has, right? As you know, for me, I'm really big on self-funding funnels here. And so for him, it's like, how can we clean that up? And then that puts you in the right spot. Just got back home over here. So one last thing I realized I wanted to tell you is that I want to leave you with this last message. The reality is, it's not risky to try to learn ads. It's not risky to try to get around that bottleneck that's stopping you. It's risky not to. It's risky to think that you can thrive and reach the new levels you want to without doing it. You know, you have, in order to have that growth I know are craving, most people are not trying to remain stagnant. Though their actions don't prove that, I know that that's the outcome that they're not looking for, is to remain stagnant, right? To become complacent. That's not what they're shooting for. And so if that's the case, if that's you watching right now, you need to go ahead and stop seeing these things as risky, and more so seeing it as risky by not attacking it. Risky by not going around, by not figuring out what it is that you can do to make this thing work that you know is the solution. A lot of us know what the solution is because there's only so many options, right? You need leads. What are you going to do? You're either going to do stuff organically, it's going to take your time, or you're going to spend money and grow your audience that way. I think that the problem with organic, if we're just talking about the lead gen side, is that it is not sustainable. It is so much time, and it's not, you're playing this algorithm lottery system. You are far better off doing something that's more predictable, guaranteed to get in front of your target audience, and gives you a chance to really optimize your messaging that much more. Once you start to crack that code, everything else will look strong. All right. Appreciate you being here. Like I said, I'm here dropping these videos every Wednesday. Definitely hit that like button if you got some value, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Take it easy.